And the Prophet ﷺ is sitting in his tent. And it's really interesting what he says. The Prophet ﷺ said, count 6 things. Count 6 things. Sitta. Bayni wa bayna yaday as-sa'a. 6 things between I and the Day of Judgment. What an interesting time to talk about the Day of Judgment. Now, if you're in the midst of battle, you're seeing that's a time you're thinking about the hereafter, you're thinking about all of these different things, you're thinking about some of these difficulties. Count 6 things between I and the Day of Judgment. The Prophet ﷺ said, the first one, Moti, my death. My death. The Prophet ﷺ said that the time, if you were to describe the lapse of time, or the amount of time between my death and the Day of Judgment, the Prophet ﷺ said it's like these 2 fingers, meaning the difference in height between these 2 fingers, right? So this is how much time has passed of the world's existence. What remains is like this time, okay? The closeness of the death of the Prophet ﷺ to the Day of Judgment. Then he said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, ثُمَّ فَتْحُ بَيْتِ الْمَقْدِسِ. And then the conquest of Jerusalem. Okay, the conquest of Jerusalem. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, ثُمَّ مَوْتَانْ يَأْخُذُ فِيكُمْ كَكُعَاصِ الْغَنَمِ. The Prophet ﷺ said, and then after that, a plague that will afflict you and kill you in great numbers, just like a plague that would run through sheep. Okay, so imagine a disease that runs through a flock of sheep and you see them fall rapidly and in great numbers. The Prophet ﷺ said that would be the 3rd thing. Then the Prophet ﷺ said, and I'll mention the other 3 just to finish the hadith, he said that you would have an increase of wealth to such an extent that even if one is given 100 dinars, he would not be satisfied. So wealth comes upon the ummah experiences a great period of wealth. Then he said, ﷺ, an affliction, a fitna that no household, Arab household would escape. And then he said, ﷺ, a truce between you and Bani al-Asfar, which are the Byzantines, the Romans, who will betray you and attack you under 80 flags. Under each flag will be 12,000 soldiers. So the implication is that the Roman Empire would not be the traditional Roman Empire. It would break into nations and different flags, and those nations would gather against you. After you had a peace with them, they would gather against you.